everyone, welcome to another episode of rawradianthealth.com, and I'm Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to answer a common question I get a lot, which is how much fat should someone eat on a raw food diet? This comes up so much, so often. It's like I get emails all the time with someone being like, I ate 2 avocados today, is that too much fat? And what is my recommendation? And so I'm going to go over this because it's pretty simple. From doing a lot of different experiments and from working with many people on their diets, I come to see that on average, like a typical person does well with about 15 to 20% of their calories being from fat. There is like 80-10-10 diet, which calls for about 10% calories from fat, which I find to be a little bit on the low side. That some people do really well on it, and that's great, and they should continue with it. But the average person actually needs a little bit more fat, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of toxins, and people are coming from diets that once upon a time were full of meats and heavy fats and trans fats and a lot of toxins as well. One thing to consider is that a lot of the toxins, a lot of pesticides, a lot of chemicals that we get from pollution and from things that are being sprayed on our food and just common toxins, a lot of them are actually not water soluble, but they're actually fat soluble. So in order to eliminate them from your body, it's not, you need a little bit of fat to actually be able to break it down and push it out of your body. Okay, so it's not everything is dissolved in water. Some of it needs actual fats. Another thing to consider too is that with the amount of stress people are under today, with a lot of responsibilities and just a lot going on and living in cities and all of that, a lot of times people's nervous systems are really affected by this, and a lot of times they're really burnt out. And what supports the nervous system is fats, okay, especially essential fatty acids, really important. And you know, these things are important right now, but also in the long term, you know, to prevent possible illnesses to be coming up later on in life, and also to ensure that you are getting a balanced diet which will support you in your older years as well. Okay, so there's a lot of things to consider, and what I've seen is that most people do well not eating a lot of fats, but keeping it somewhere in the range of 15 to 20% of their calories. Now, what does that translate to, right? Because I don't expect anyone to sit down and count their calories every day and figure out the math. But what it pretty much comes down to is my suggestion would be to have no more than 1 avocado a day and no more than 2 to 4 tablespoons of nuts and seeds. Now, some days you might actually have way less, and some days you might actually have way more. And that's why I don't believe it's something that you need to calculate every day and have a certain amount of fats every day and a certain amount of this and a certain amount of that. But over a week or over a month, the average should be 15 to 20% of your calories coming from fat. And so the good thing about that is that there are going to be some days where you're not going to have much fat at all. There might be even weeks where you have really a low-fat diet, but then here, you know, a few days out of those weeks, you might have days where you have a few handfuls of nuts and seeds, or you might have 2 avocados. But everything balances out in the long run. So the main thing is that anyone that's on like a super low-fat diet, short term, it's all right, but long term, they really have to watch out and make sure that their body is functioning properly, that they're not having any reactions with their nervous system, things like that. And a lot of times you can tell even just by your hair, your skin, your nails, if they become brittle, if they start thinning out, things like that, or your skin starts drying up. These are indications that you're not getting enough fat. And a lot of times too, another indication is being on edge, very nervy, you know, very anxious, things like that. It might be an indication that you are lacking in fat. So these are things to look out for, and you don't want to have like any kind of deficiency in the long term. So the main thing is to listen to your body, see how it reacts, and And one thing I do really want to point out is that a lot of times when people first start out on a raw food diet, that's the last thing they should be worrying about is how much fats they're eating, because if you're doing a raw food diet or a high raw food diet, it will change. And usually the first 6 months, the first year, or even the first 2 years, you might be consuming a lot of fats, especially if you come from a diet that had a lot of meats or a lot of dairy products, a lot of cheese, things like that, that your body was used to getting a lot of fuel from dense calories and getting it from fats. That you can't just go from eating a very diet rich and full of meat, going from that to having a diet that's just fruit and greens, right? You need, your body will be craving those fats. So it's important to substitute those animal fats with vegetable fats or fats coming from nuts and seeds. And coconut is great. I'm not a huge fan of having too much oil though in the diet. That's where people can run into some pitfalls, is that the oils it's just all fat, and there's not so much nutrition in it other than that fat. And that's all right if you have a little bit of oil, but not to be sort of pouring it on your salads, but really, try and use avocado instead of using the oils, or try having the actual coconut meat instead of having coconut oil, or cut it half and half so that you're not overdoing it with the fats, because a lot of times that's where people run into problems. And a lot of times too, people get digestive issues from too much fat. A lot of times it's very, very difficult to digest, and so you got to take that slow. Your body will tell you if you've had too much nuts or too much oil. So do listen to the little calls that you get, and your body reactions. So those are my tips for today. I'm also excited to just mention to you guys that I'm working on a new program that's coming out. It's coming out hopefully by the end of the week. I'm working really, really hard getting everything together, and I just wanted to let you know, just to stay tuned for it, because it's going to be fantastic. All right, so I'm wishing you guys a fabulous day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.